We'll give you updates on TJ Watt's situation, as well as the return of a couple injured guys, as well as talking about the new leader for the Steelers wide receiver room stepping up in big ways and what it could mean for this team. All here to get you ready for Monday Night Football. Locked On Steelers, Chris Carter, joined today by Jenna Harner. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And a reminder, the Locked On Steelers podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is now the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. As before, we're joined by Jenna Harner. You know her from Channel 11 WPXI. Jenna, it's always great to have you on. Jenna, we're going to do a quick update before we get into our Metcalf talk here, but just on the TJ Watt situation. But good news in general from TJ Watt. We've now learned it's a collapsed lung, which that itself wasn't good, but they've done a procedure. He's out of it. He's expected to maybe be back this season. He won't be back this week. He's out for this game, but the big news at the end of the week turns out to not be as, scary as it looked initially.
Yeah, and this was something that kind of developed, or updates were kind of continuing to come out, and it was a very developing situation, very scary situation. Just of course, when you hear TJ Watt's in the hospital, and then obviously as everything unfolds, definitely is a good thing that it doesn't seem like it's a season ending. It doesn't seem like it's a career ending injury. And in talking to some doctors that just basically about like when someone has a collapsed lung, like what kind of happens, talking about the process. It seems like if, for an athlete of TJ Watt's stature, he is somebody that can bounce back from this. It might be a couple weeks. And, obviously we're not going to sit here and speculate, but it might be more than just he might be missing this one game. But it seem like it's this career ending thing. And just, again, you hear hospital things are so scary. So our, thoughts, of course, are with TJ Watt and his family, and just hoping that he's recovering well and that the recovery is going all right. And that we'll, see him at some point back in the Steelers locker room in the short-term future here.
Yeah, absolutely. So good news in general, just to hear that. Wanted to knock that out. If you missed our updates, you can always check me out at Carter Critiques on Twitter, Instagram. I do my updates there, but if you can also follow us on YouTube, we do our shorts. So if you ever don't see a full episode and you hear some news like that and you want to hear from me, you can check me there, or you can read our work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, where we also would update you there. But let's get into what I wanted to talk about for the lead part of this show today. And Jenna, to me, I think the Steelers are getting what they wanted out of DK Metcalf. Now, people have all season looked at DK Metcalf and the Steelers receivers numbers. Right now, Metcalf has 753 receiving yards, and that was after a really big week last week. But they compare that to George Pickens, who has 1,179 receiving yards, and he's lighting it up. He has 8 touchdowns. DK Metcalf has 5 on the year, and they're thinking, oh man, did the Steelers make the wrong move to get him? But that's not why they went and got DK Metcalf. It wasn't for the raw numbers and the raw production. They've been seeing that out of George. They wanted a leader, and the thing that we are seeing DK Metcalf do is lead, not just in the receiver room, but on the team in general. We've talked about this past week where he filled in at the gunner position when he thought Ben Skoranek was hurt. He told him, "Get out, I got this," and he went there and fight. Those are things that you did not see George Pickens committing to. You see how locked in he is in a year where he's having down numbers. Like right now, he has fewer receiving yards than he has had at any point in time in his career. And to see him doing this, I think, is a good sign of how locked in he is, how the accountability that he brings, and the way that he can sort of bring a boost to the Steelers culture and locker room.
Yeah, and I think we've talked so much. I think one of the most fascinating parts of covering DK Metcalf and learning who he is, kind of getting to know him as the player and person we've gotten to know him as, is you could just sense that. You sense that he came in. I mean, yes, he's young in young terms, just in general in life, but he has some of the experience. And I think coming in, just seeing the way that he interacts with us, even just when we're, whether it's a post game, whether it's any time in the locker room, we're interviewing him. He always answers, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. It's just very little things like that. He's willing to take the time, even if it's incredibly frustrating, if it's after a tough loss. You hear him take accountability. And I think that was something that's instilled in him because of his dad, who's a former offensive lineman in this, but you can just see the way that he carries himself. And this was needed for a team that has had a very young offense. How many times have we talked about this offense before this season kind of lacking that one main leader, even though some of those guys that they were looked over the last couple of years that have been in that position were young in their careers themselves and never really had that veteran presence. And I think kind of the combination of Aaron Rodgers and the way he's holding a lot of his receivers, particularly a lot of his linemen and tight ends, very accountable. I think you marry that very well with DK Metcalf and the role that he has been in, that we've seen him take on this season. And just there are those selfless moments. There are very frustrating moments too, of course, where you see on the other side, if he takes a penalty. I think a couple games ago he had some penalties that I think there were 2 or 3 really like not the time nor place, but overall, I think he's been setting such a good example for this team. And I think that is something that they're building off of, that I don't think this front office and this organization at any point thought they were going to get out of George Pickens in the future.
Absolutely. And he was asked about that. Aaron Rodgers has said that, quote unquote, DK Metcalf has been on one during practice. And DK Metcalf kind of talked about how he feels like now, like he can't, I showed you guys when he got here, we did interviews with him and he said, hey, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, those guys, it's up to they're professionals. I respect them as who they are. He didn't want to walk in and just say, hey guys, I'm the leader, follow me. He wanted to come in, assess how things were, earn people's respect, and then go out and do it. And I think that's kind of what you're starting to see from him, is now that he's been with the Steelers, he's starting to set that tone. Listen to how he addressed that in the Steelers locker room when we talked to him last Thursday.
Aaron also said you were on one Thursday and Friday in practice. What does that look like when you're on one in practice?
No, I think I just was feeling the need to say something about the lack of details with everybody, including myself. So I think just being more vocal in that aspect was what he meant. Nothing like a sight to see or anything.
Is that something you're more comfortable doing now in December with this team than you would have been when you came in? And
yes, sir.
Initially?
Yeah, because I'm not trying to be here, in May or April and just start speaking. I got to get to know my teammates. Got to give them a chance to get to know me and the type of player that I am.
How they
DK.
Good.
We won. Put up a lot of points. So yeah, I think the response was good.
DK, you're seeing that carrying over so far this week?
What?
As far as that type of mentality that you guys need going forward?
Oh, yes, sir, because we know what's at stake. We know what winning looks like. We know what I think we still have yet to play our best football game because we had a little lull in the second half, but we're definitely headed in the right direction.
And you hear that Jenna, and he's saying, he points out, he's like, I felt like it was the need to point out that we need to be in part of the details. And he said, myself included, he is not out there pointing fingers. He is saying, rally around me. We've got to be better.
And not to, I don't want to pile on in any way in George Pickens, because George Pickens is a very talented National Football League wide receiver. He was never going to be saying things like, to be taking accountability in that way. I feel like anytime that we talked with him in the locker room, not only was it basically pulling teeth to even get an interview with George Pickens, but then answers and questions that we were asking were very tough and were very challenging. It was just, it's two different players and they're both very talented in their outright, but the Steelers knew what they needed in this locker room when it came to that leadership aspect. And I think that is exactly what we're seeing from DK. And again, was kind of easing into, everything. He was kind of figuring stuff out and figuring out, okay, this is how I'm going to handle these types of situations. But in a crucial moment, at a very crucial point in the season, he spoke up. And I think that resonated volumes with this locker room. And I think we've seen that with a lot of the new guys. I mean, what was it before the Colts game? Jalen Ramsey got up in front of the team and addressed the team the night before. Like, you're seeing these new players, these veteran, in a sense, guys that they brought in to be in very key specific roles for this team, take those steps in this area at very big times. And I think that has paid dividends for this team, just in terms of saying, okay, this message, we hear it loud and clear. Let's go out there and execute.
Agreed entirely. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the Steelers got other good news on the injury front about this game. We'll talk about those and then also what happened in the AFC North this weekend, all here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Jenna Harner, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you this show is brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before you even gift it so that when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. Grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos will love this. Endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app. Packaging comes gift ready, no price tag, no wrapping needed, just a huge win. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver Mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code locked on. This deal is exclusive to listeners and Aura frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter here with Jenna Harner from Channel 11 WPXI. Before we continue, I want to remind you that you can join the Everydayers Club. We thank you for making Locked On Steelers your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You're already live with your team every day when you check out Locked On Steelers. Now take it up to a level and go ad-free. You can join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Steelers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonsteelers.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Jenna, let's talk about the Steelers a little bit more here. There was some good news on the injury front. Derrrick Harmon looks set to return for the Steelers. He's officially questionable, I believe, but at the same time, he was able to practice on Saturday when they went to Acrisure Stadium to practice. I froze myself out there watching that one. But the Steelers getting good news there. And then also good news, Darnell Washington, who had been in concussion protocol and was questionable for this game, was upgraded to be just straight up good to go, no injury designations. So now the only person questionable is Derrrick Harmon. And I think that his participation could be huge this week, especially with TJ Watt out. We know that there is a difference of they average about 96 yards allowed on against the run when Derrrick Harmon plays, 193 when he doesn't play. That's the difference of being either the 6th best run defense in the NFL or dead last.
And it's insane that he is making such an impact this way in his rookie season. But this is exactly why the Steelers went out and drafted him in the first round. What did Mike Tomlin? Was this, again, at this point in the year, everything is mixed up to me. So I don't know if it was this week or last week, Mike Tomlin press conference, but Mike Tomlin gave Derrick Harmon a ton of praise, and rightfully so, because of what he has been able to do when he is in the game. So that's going to be a big thing to keep an eye on. It was phenomenal that he did get back on the field for practice. He was limited on Saturday, but the Steelers are going to need him against a Miami Dolphins team that I'm going to assume is just going to attempt to run the football as many times as physically possible, given how cold it is going to be Monday night at that stadium, given the wind, and given what has brought them so much success in this midst of this 4-game win streak they're currently in. Derrick Harmon, if he is back in there, even if it is on a little bit of a limited snap count, depending on the severity of his injury and how he's feeling right now, this is going to be crucial, again, with TJ Watt out, because of how good Watt has been against the run this year. And also, again, the difference the Steelers have when they have Harmon in the game versus when Harmon's not in the game.
Absolutely. I look at just what he's brought to the table. He's physical. Mike Tomlin pointing out earlier this week during his Tuesday press conference, he said that's why we went and got him in the first round, because he's that kind of a difference maker this early in his career. Really good signs for him. So him being the only questionable guy, also good for the Steelers, because you had a few guys that you were questionable about. Cam Hayward missed the Friday practice with a knee. Keanu Benton was limited, and then YA Black missed it with a shoulder. But this is just part of this part of the season, right, Jenna? Like, players get these bumps. These are the bumps and bruises Mike Tomlin does talk about. Now, they are going to miss a couple other players. Andres Peak won't be playing. That's not a good sign for the tackle position. That means they're basically down to the fourth string left tackle in Dylan Cook this week. That's going to be big. And then James Pierre, who did not practice all week officially with a calf injury, is out for this game. That means Asante Samuel Jr. goes in for the Steelers defense.
This is the, what is it, attrition part of the season, as we always kind of hear it talked about. I mean, this is football in late December, and this is kind of, I think Joey Porter Jr. said it in the locker room last week. This is where the money is made. This is where guys make their money. So you need every valuable piece and part. Dylan Cook is going to be looked at to step up. I think he played pretty well when he was called upon against Baltimore, not looking at the numbers entirely. So please, if I'm misspeaking here, quote me on that. But I liked what we saw out of him. James Pierre, to me, though, is a little bit of a bigger loss because of just how integral of a part he's been over the last couple of weeks. What was it? The first 3 Ravens drives last week, he played key roles in crucial third down stops and all of those. So it's going to be a very interesting game Monday night. And I don't feel like people also are talking enough about Tua in the cold. I really I know this is a fun little narrative that we always kind of talk about, but I feel like there was so much that happened specific to the Steelers last week that this is not something that's being talked about. This is going to be the coldest game he's played all season. And I know a lot of people look at the stat. It's now 1-7 in games 46 degrees or colder, which 46 is not that cold. First off,
it's not like 46 actually would be really nice right now to have Pittsburgh. I would love some 46 right now.
We would take 46. I believe Monday's night is supposed to be, so the feels like the wind chill is going to be about 15 degrees. It's going to be a little chilly, but I think that to me just also leans itself to the Dolphins are going to look to run the football and say, hey, Pittsburgh Steelers, this is what we're doing. Can you stop it? And I am going to be very interested to see, Alex Highsmith also, I feel like I'm bouncing around a little bit here, but Alex Highsmith in the game that he had when it came in terms of stopping the run last week, I know Baltimore gave up a lot of yards, but in those crucial moments, he was making big plays. They're going to need that entire linebacker rotation to step up. And then you're also, again, if Derrrick Harmon is able to go, he is going to play a massive role in stopping what I think Miami's just going to say, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to run the football.
No, I'm right with you there. I think that's a big part of this. They need the OLBs to really step up. Like you made a great point about Alex Highsmith. I thought he played one of his best games of the season last week when he was taking things away out in the edges. And yes, the Ravens did run the football for a bit, but he was able to keep Derrick Henry in check in a lot of ways, a lot of the space plays away. This is a big week for Nick Herbig to step up and show, hey, a lot of people say that he should be a starter, that he's too good to be kept on the bench. This is a week to show that if he comes out and he's able to contain, especially with the way the Dolphins want to run the football, they want to hit the perimeter, they want to attack you to the outside. If they're able to pinch that enforced runs more inside and the inside run defense helps, that could go a long way to forcing Tua Tagovailoa to have to come out and play well because he is. You look at the times. I looked up all his December games when he's on the road, and his wins are in Washington against in New York against the Jets, in New Orleans against the Raiders. And so you got 2 warm weather places, one, is kind of middle of the country place in Washington, but you look at some of his losses to like Baltimore, losses to Buffalo in the cold. That is not his specialty. You want to force him to have to be great. If Tua comes out and slings it and throws some amazing passes, okay, good for him. But you cannot let Devon Achane define this game if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, you absolutely cannot. And again, this is the type of football that the Steelers want to be playing. I think they did a very good job of out physicaling, if that's even a phrase, however you want to say that, being out. I can't even speak at this point. Physically outmatching. There we go. Out physical. Can you tell that we're at the end of the year? Physically outmatching the Ravens, at least for a good majority of that game. And you're going to need to do that against a Miami team that, I feel like, again, they're this is a little bit, okay, yes, of course, this is Miami. They're used to Florida and all that. These guys grow up everywhere. They play everywhere. But this is going to be a cold, uncomfortable game. The elements are going to be the same for everybody. But if the Steelers could make the Dolphins miserable and force them into those one-dimensional passing situations where you have to have Tua be phenomenal in order to win this game, that's going to be a big, big part of, I'm assuming, their game plan, but also how you look to end this win streak that Miami's been on.
We come back. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to talk about what happened in the AFC North this weekend and get you our final predictions for Steelers Dolphins and what happens in this game. Keep it here with the Locked On Steelers podcast. But first, remind you that this show is brought to you also by FanDuel Sportsbook. NFL Sundays moves fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, where the momentum flips after a turnover. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. The Steelers money line has moved all week long, so be sure to check it out all the time at FanDuel.com. Player props updated as guys heat up. You can bet the next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked in on every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel. The game moves fast, and so can you. Back here in the Locked On Steelers podcast, Chris Carter here with Jenna Harner. Jenna, real quick before we get to Steelers, Dolphins, want to talk about what we saw this past Sunday. Now, we were recording this during the 4 p.m. hour game, so we can't officially reflect on those. But we get I think the most important games were the 1 o'clock games. And you saw the Ravens trounce the Bengals 24-0. I think that was kind of the story of the day. The Steelers could have used the Bengals winning that game to kind of give the Ravens another rough week. But the Bengals now officially eliminated from playoff contention, as were the Kansas City Chiefs, who lost to the Chargers. That was pretty wild. The Bills also beating the Patriots show that they're not out of the mix for that division. I didn't think it broke as well for the Steelers as it could have. They could have had the Chiefs. They could have had I think actually the Chargers winning is fine. You still need to just win the division. But I think the bottom line here is that when you look around, the Steelers do need to win the division, because at this point, the playoff seeding of the wild cards are 2 10-4 teams, and the Chargers and the Bills, both of the Steelers have lost to, and then a 9-5 Texans team who's playing really good right now. The Steelers, if they could catch the Texans in theory, but I think the easier thing to do, beat the Browns, beat the Ravens, and I believe that will lock you into guaranteeing that you're in the playoffs because you've won the AFC North.
Yeah, which is wild. It almost feels like, I mean, the Lions game, of course, does matter, but because it's the NFC side of things, it isn't as crucial as the Browns and the Ravens game. And it was so funny because, God, a couple weeks ago, everyone saying, oh, the Ravens and their schedule, it's a cupcake, it's easy. I'm like, is anybody actually looking at the schedule? Because
right.
I thought today's game or Sunday's game against the Cincinnati was probably the easiest, quote unquote, on their schedule, because the Ravens now have to go to, is it home against New England? No, they host New England.
Yeah, they host New England, and then they have to go on the road to play Green Bay in Lambeau.
Yep, and both of those are primetime matchups. The Lambeau game, they're coming off a short week, going from a Sunday night to a Saturday night. So it's going to be a tough stretch for the Ravens here, and I think the Steelers can have it. You have to win against the Dolphins, and you beat the Browns at home in what you feel is a very good game, a winnable game based on what the Browns have displayed and what they're doing this season. And then, as we felt, it's going to come down to that Week 18 game. But there's a lot that can happen, but it is fascinating to know that this is the point in the season that, this is what's fun about the NFL. We've 3 weeks to go for the Steelers, 4 games, but everything's coming down to the wire.
Absolutely. Let's get to Steelers Dolphins here real quick. Jenna, we've talked about Tua. We've talked about Itchen. We've talked about how the Steelers offense can get things going with DK Metcalf. What is the biggest X factor for you that has to come through in this game? And then give us your final prediction for how you see this thing going.
To me, it's consistency. To me, it's can the Steelers, and I know that sounds so simple, but can the Steelers do what DK Metcalf said, play one of their best, if not their best football game of the year. Can they both offensively and defensively find just consistency across the board where there aren't those lulls, where there isn't the offense had a great first half, second half struggles, or the defense, hey, they found a way to stop the run only for a quarter and a half or two. Can this team be consistent across the board and make big plays when they need to? And can they stop the run against a Miami team that has been, I believe that, I want to make sure I have this stat correct. I believe that they've been one of the best, if not the league's best rushing offense in the midst of this 4-game win streak that they've had here, that they've strung together for the Dolphins. Is that correct? Is that about right?
I don't know for sure. I haven't done the rankings through just those 4 weeks. I do know that going into this matchup, they have the number 8 rushing offense overall. So, so I think, but to your point, also when you look at their last 4 games where they've had this 4-game win streak, they've rushed for 239 yards against the Jets, 164 yards against the Saints, 169 yards against the Commanders, and then 197 against the Bills. So I think it's safe to say that if they're not number 1, they're pretty close up there.
Yeah. So to me, I mean, I feel like I just listed everything, but it's going to be, can this team be a consistent team and play a complementary football game? And can they stop the run against a very red hot Miami Dolphins team that Mike Tomlin said they're one of the hottest teams in the league right now? That's going to be what's really crucial for me in this matchup.
I hear you there. I agree with you. I think that's a big part of this. The Steelers have to do fire. They put out the red hot Ravens team last week. They got to put out red hot Dolphins team this week, and what better way to do that than in the cold in your own house, where the Steelers have not lost a football game since 1919. So that being said, Jenna, what is your prediction about this game?
I think the Steelers do win this game, and I know that not having TJ Watt is going to be a big factor here, but I think you're going to see other guys step up and make big plays. Derrrick Harmon potentially being able to play is a massive surge. I didn't anticipate this, the Steelers getting this week. To me, I think this is going to be like a 26-20-ish type game. It's going to be low scoring. It's going to be cold. It's going to be uncomfortable for both teams. But I think the Steelers are going to out-physical, again, the Miami Dolphins. I think they're going to win those battles in the trenches. I think we're going to see some impressive runs from Miami just because the Steelers have not been consistent in stopping the run this year. And they're, even like we saw last week against the Ravens put up a lot of yards on the ground, but they didn't feel as impactful as the game kind of went on in its entirety. So to me, it's going to be a close, low-scoring game. Chris Boswell is going to work some magic. I think the offense is going to have some success on the day, but I think we're going to see a big takeaway from the defense. I think Nick Herbig is going to come up and make some big play. Alex Highsmith is going to make a big play. Cam Hayward, one of those guys on the defensive front, is going to come up clutch for this team. And I think the Steelers are going to win this game. It's going to be close, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be cold, and we're ready for it.
I'm right with you on the cold. I'm right with you on the idea that that's what the Steelers needed to play like. I think they do play that way. I think that this is a game where, I brought up the Steelers Monday Night Football record. I think they've won 22 straight Monday Night Football games. They've also lost every primetime game they've played this year. I believe this will be their 4th, so they're 0-3 there. The other intangible number that works against them, they are 1-11 when TJ Watt does not play. And so that is all that has been hanging over their heads, I think. But this is where Aaron Rodgers can step in, settle things down. You can see those new leaders like Jalen Ramsey, like DK Metcalf, stepping up for their team and settle things down and get them a more complete win. I think they do get a win. Similar score to you. I'm going to say 27-19 Steelers. They find a way. They find a way to win at home. They extend themselves to 8-6, and then they set themselves up for. They really would put, even though the Ravens win, a win here would really put the pressure on the Ravens, because if the Steelers beat the Browns and the Ravens lose their next 2 games, Week 18 does not matter. And so it puts the Ravens under pressure to have to win 2 really big games against 2 really good opponents. The Steelers basically would just be a point where if they could just win 1 more game and the Steelers and the Ravens lose out, they would have the playoff game at the playoffs locked up by the end of the season, because by my count, that would give the Ravens 9 losses. And the Steelers would have 9 wins at that point. So winning tonight will be huge. We both have them winning around the same margin there. That's all we have here today for the Locked On Steelers podcast. Jenna Harner, thanks so much for joining us. Let people know they can find you, follow you, get more of your work.
Thank you for having me as always. It's a pleasure to be here. It's not a Friday, it's Monday. We're loving it. You can find me on Twitter at Jenna Harner11, Instagram at Jenna_Harner, I think. And locally here in Pittsburgh, WPXI, Channel 11. We also have our website and our app. And we'll be at the game and I'll be all bundled up later on tonight. Stay warm out there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jenna. Thank you all for tuning into the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky at Carter Critiques. My handle is always the same. If you like if you listen to Locked On Steelers, did we make your Spotify Wrapped? If we did, prove it by posting on social media, and you can secure a free month in our new Everydayer Club to get ad-free Locked On Steelers. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on Twitter and on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club. You get your favorite show ad-free, exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we send you over to 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel, and on audio, make sure you make your second listen of the day Locked On NFL. We'll see you here tomorrow on Locked On Steelers, recapping Steelers Dolphins.